Hi, I'm Laurie Wehring, and you're listening to Art Talks, the podcast bringing you news about the New Braunfels arts and talent industry during this COVID-19 pandemic. Each week, we'll feature Jason Irle, Executive Director of the Mid-Texas Symphony, Cheryl Fisher, Executive Director at the Braunfels Theater, and we'll feature special guests representing local arts organizations to share how they're being affected and some messages of positivity. This week, we're welcoming Bobby Tschoepe, Artistic Director at Christian Youth Theater, SA New Braunfels, aka CYT. Welcome, everyone. So, Jason and Cheryl, how are your seasons looking as we slowly open back up, and what measures are you putting in place to help people feel safe?
First, I want to point out we have completely disinfected the theater from top to bottom, including the bolts on the bottom of the seats. And we'll be initializing total building disinfecting procedures between each show once we open up. We are also installing shields in the box office and concessions, and we have hand sanitizing stations available in numerous points, including backstage. Staff is required to use the stations upon entry, along with sanitizer on their desks. They are asked to wear masks if they cannot social distance, but we've been able to accomplish that requirement easily with how our offices are set up. All touch points are sanitized daily at the end of the day, and we have one staff member who continues to primarily work from home. We started our renewals for our season ticket holders on May 4th and have been serving these folks either through our historic ticket booth outside or by phone. Due to how the theater is configured and with the amount of tickets sold for our shows, we're just not able to present these shows and with social distancing restrictions in place. However, we are working on returning film presentations to the theater, only allowing the acceptable number of patrons in the building to abide by social distancing guidelines as long as they're in place. We will have more information on that at the next podcast.
Well, Laurie, as far as the symphony goes, right now we're just working with the different venues to assess what their protocols are, and then what we can do to supplement those as far as sanitation goes and disinfecting the areas. Again, as I said in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, time is on our side. We are hoping that we get good news over the next couple of months that say that we can still be safe and careful, but we're also able to have more people attend a live concert. And in the meantime, though, a lot of contingencies are being planned as to what that season will look like if in the event that we still have to not only social distance our audience, but also the musicians and artists on stage. So we're still working through all of that, but right now, it's basically working with the venues and what their protocols are, and seeing how we can help those or be a part of making sure that that's a success for people attending a concert. And as far as ticket sales goes, we reverted back to the old-fashioned order form in the mail, and we've had a tremendous return, a tremendous response to that. So our patrons are excited. So I'm going to fall in line with them and be optimistic that we'll have a successful season come September.
Bobby, what is CYT? Who does it impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, CYT is Christian Youth Theater, and we are actually a local branch of CYT, which is a national organization. There's over 25 branches of CYT across the country, and we are an after-school theater arts training program for students primarily ages 4 to 18, and we're actually the largest youth theater program in the nation in terms of after-school theater arts programming, and we do theater arts training through classes, camps, and shows. Our mission is to develop character and creativity in kids of all ages through quality theater arts training that brings families and communities together while reflecting the creator. And so being able to develop character in kids through theater arts, all while glorifying the Lord, is our goal. And it's really, really fun to be able to work with students in an arts environment, while really being able to focus and develop who we are as individuals and who we'll grow up to be.
Obviously, the Brauntex plays a part in this next question, but how has COVID-19 affected CYT?
Yeah, that's a great question. So CYT serves families, and so COVID-19 has definitely brought changes our way. All of our classes and shows are obviously in person. We're a theater organization, and so we have had to make the really tough decision to cancel our winter production of Guys and Dolls that was supposed to be on the Brontex stage early April, and we also made the decision to cancel our spring production of Aladdin in June. And while that was a really tough decision to make, we felt like it was the right thing to do in order to keep our families and our students and our teachers safe. CYT is for the whole family. And so when you have students involved in a production, their parents are also involved in the show in backstage capacities, helping with PR, helping build sets and create costumes. And so in order to make sure that everyone is staying safe and well during this time, we decided to cancel those shows. Our spring class session looked a little different, but it was actually a really, really incredible thing to see. We took all of our classes online and made them virtual. And while we were not sure how that was going to go, things actually really blossomed. Our kids were able to still develop community, continue to be able to build the skills that we're trying to develop. And so we had dance classes and voice classes and acting classes online, which was really, really cool. And our families actually really, really enjoyed that. And so as we continue to move forward, we're looking at how we can continue virtual offerings in addition to being able to gather together, because theater is about collaborating and being with each other in person. And so figuring out how we can continue to do that safely as we move forward is really important to us.
Just a little follow-up on that, because it's not only the dates of the performance and rehearsals here at the Brontex that this affected, but speak to a little bit of the time length that your cast has to be able to rehearse together prior to them ever arriving at the theater that week.
Right. So we actually had for Guys and Dolls, our show processes are typically 8 to 10 weeks. So we actually had auditions in early January, and we cast the show at that time. And so we had been rehearsing for about 8 weeks. The show was almost completely on its feet by the time we had to make the decision to cancel. We have rehearsals on Friday nights and Saturdays at our studio location, in addition to classes. And so when students are involved in our program, because we're interested in developing skills as well as putting the shows on stage, students who are in our productions are also enrolled in a class of their choice throughout the session. And so we had been having classes and having rehearsals going on for about 8 weeks before we had to make the call to cancel the show. So it's a lot of work that goes into doing what we do, and it's really cool to be able to see families come together, being able to see community members get involved as well. And so that's something that makes CYT unique. For classes, it's more of a drop-off situation, but when you're involved in a show, it really is a collaborative effort, not just with those in the organization, but with family units as well.
Wow, Bobby, I know that there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into doing not just the art, the production and the performance side of things, but also the educational and the children that you impact and all that. And I know that all in my experience with CYT, it's always been top notch, and I know that y'all are going to do the best you can, and I know that what y'all are going to end up being after all of this is going to be awesome. And I want to thank you again for taking the time to be here to talk to us. But I've been known on this podcast to sort of go deeper into what the organization does and how it and how it has come to be and what its journey is. And Bobby, I was at the Brontex for the very first performance that CYT ever did in New Braunfels, and it was Seussical the Musical. And I believe you were in that one, correct?
I was actually not, but I was involved. Yes, there was a gentleman named Chance. There was a young man named Chance who was in our organization who ironically, we actually never worked together at CYT. Like we never were in shows together. He graduated just before I started in the program, but I was deeply involved with CYT from the very beginning. And when CYT was first brought to New Braunfels, Braunfels in 2011 was when the first summer camps happened. There were several other events that were hosted by CYT in our area, and I was at several of those workshops, and had a lot of friends who were deeply involved in the organization from its birth here in our area. And it was later on in my high school years that I got involved as a performer and as a student, and took classes and was in shows. And when I graduated, I was able to be a camp counselor. I started teaching. My degree is actually in music education. And so as I was pursuing my degree in music education, I was able to continue to teach and work backstage. And so I was very deeply involved in the organization. For about 5 years, I was on staff before I just recently, this past August, took the role of artistic director. And so it's been a really, really awesome and unique experience for me to not only be a student and be able to experience that side of things, but also be able to teach, be able to work backstage. I've done shows professionally in San Antonio and Austin as well. And so being able to bring all those things to the table has been a really, really unique journey that I think is really incredible. And I feel so blessed to be able to bring those skills and bring those experiences to the students and the families that we're serving here at CYT.
So Bobby, you bring up an interesting, thing about the productions that CYT puts on, and just from my experience, a lot of your productions, the children that are performing, they are taught on a very high artistic level, in my opinion. You can do certain musicals that these students play characters and they emulate the movie stars that you see on TV or in feature films, but y'all take it another notch above that and actually help the student take on the role a little bit. Can you give us a little bit of insight on what you do from an instructional standpoint on how you get these students prepared to take on these roles and how they prepare for, a production in front of a live audience?
Right. I think that's a testament to our teachers and to our staff, and that, yes, while we focus on what we're bringing to the stage, it's also about just validating who our students are and the skills that they have, and being able to help them grow in all of those different areas. We have students who come from a lot of different backgrounds. And so we've got kids who are in NBISD, who are in Comal ISD. We have a lot of homeschooled students. We have kids who have not stepped on a stage before until they do a CYT show. We have kids who have done training programs outside of CYT as well. And so as I think that one of the things that makes CYT unique in that way is that because we don't only emphasize just the show process and getting on the stage, but we want kids to be able to grow and learn through a class mentality as well. That helps our kids be able to develop those skills that they need to therefore succeed on stage, more so than just, we're going to be a part of a show. We're actually learning things to prepare us for a production, and then also focusing on what can we learn through the show process. What are skills that we can learn? The reality is a lot of our students are not necessarily going to go on to be performers professionally. A lot of them are going to go on to do other things. And of our graduating seniors, we have a lot of kids that are wanting to pursue nursing or pursue things in business. And so while that's the case, you're still able to develop skills through the theater arts that are going to serve you wherever you go. And so I think that the class emphasis that we have helps lead into the show process in a really beautiful way. And I think that kind of answers your question, I hope.
No, Bobby, you did beautifully, because I gotta say, you sit down at a production of anything nowadays and you say, okay, I know I'm familiar with this character from this movie, so I can anticipate this performer emulating what somebody did in a movie. But when you come to a CYT performance, y'all take it to such a new level, and it's such a fresh take on the on the storyline and the plot and the character building and whatnot. So I just want to say that that's been one of the biggest things I've appreciated about CYT's offering to the community, is that higher artistic level. So let's talk a little bit about summer programs. You talked about that just a little bit to go. What is in store for young artists this summer as things are starting to open back up?
Yeah, so we have our own studio location, which we are so blessed to have our own studio location. A lot of CYTs don't. A lot of CYTs around the nation meet in churches and schools. And because, first of all, we're in Texas and we're already starting to open up at a faster rate than other locations. And because we have our own studio, we are moving forward with some summer camps in person this summer with COVID-19 protocols in place to make sure that our students and families are staying safe, figuring out how we can continue to allow our kids to perform and come together to learn in a socially distanced and safe way. And so we've been working on our summer camp offerings. And so those are actually currently registering right now. We're also working on some other virtual options that will be available for people who maybe aren't ready to step out yet and who aren't ready quite to be with others, which we totally understand. Everybody's going to be in a different place when it comes to reassimilating. And so we're wanting to provide those options and making sure that we're doing things in a safe way. We're once again, looking to what the governor is saying. We're looking at what other camps and organizations in our area are doing, talking with health professionals to see how can we best make sure we are being safe, wise, and looking out for the safety and well-being of our kids, while also giving them the opportunities to continue to grow. Because summer camps are a huge part of the student experience. And so looking at how we can still provide those opportunities in a fun way. We'll be doing a production of Into the Woods Junior as our teen summer stock show. And we've been talking a lot about how we can be creative to maybe bring that to an outdoor type of performing venue or something along those lines, to be able to not only provide an artistic outlet for students, but maybe something that's creative and different that our kids haven't been able to do before. I think that COVID-19 presents a lot of opportunities to think outside of the box. And when you're forced to be limited, it forces you to be creative in ways that you didn't think of before. And we were able to experience that really successfully with our online classes. And so to be able to translate that to summer camps and see how we can raise the bar is a challenge, but it's a good challenge.
Well, before we kind of come to a close, I want to just say this: as the Brauntex being the venue that you primarily use, we do a lot of shows here. We see a lot of groups here. We always look forward to hosting CYT at the Brauntex. It's you can tell from the top down that your organization is all in sync together, from the board to the directive staff to the volunteers to the kids and to the parents and the patrons that come to the shows. It's a delight for us to do, and we just look forward to it. And you're great to work with. You're organized, and I just can't say enough about how much we enjoy hosting CYT here at the Brauntex.
Well, thank you. We love being able to work with you guys. It's a pleasure.
Well, it's, being a historic venue, not everyone has the appreciation of its age and care that needs to be taken. And we always appreciate the fact that you guys do recognize that and are so respectful to the building. And but having said all that, what is your fondest memory of being a part of CYT San Antonio?
Man, that is such a loaded question, and there are so many memories, and I think that one of the really, really cool things about CYT, and I think this is something with the arts in general, is when you work with people in a theater or arts environment, whether it be choir or theater or band or orchestra. I was in choir before I was in CYT, and so I was a choir nerd who also loved all the theater things. And so you find your people, and I think that there are just so many relationships that are built through those arts families, and I just have so many incredible memories of being with friends. Backstage at the Brontex, preparing for shows, being able to relive some mishaps that happen on stage. One that kind of lives in infamy and at CYT San Antonio is when we were doing a production of Peter Pan at the Brontex in 2014, and I played Captain Hook, and the hook that I was using in our final performance, and everybody wishes it was on film, and it's not. My hook was pulled out of my hand by the guy playing Peter Pan during a sword fight. To which point I had to retrieve it, put it back on, and the next stroke of blade to hook snapped the hook in half. And so there are just things that and just the way that things are handled, there are those things that live on stage and in your memory. And just knowing that this theater family is so open, but also tight knit is really, really incredible. And it is such a blessing to be a part and to be able to work with students who are able to just blossom and grow, not just in their skills on stage, but in who they are as individuals, and being able to see them rise up in leadership and lead devotions for rehearsal, to be able to help out the younger ones who need assistance, to be able to give a helping hand when we need to help clean up the studio at the end of the day because rehearsal's done. All of those things just make CYT what it is. And it's just such a blessing for me to be a part of this organization.
Thank you, Bobby, for sharing your experiences and for spending time with us today. And thanks, as always, Jason and Cheryl, for the great questions. And thanks, listeners, for joining us for Art Talks. We'll be posting new episodes weekly on Thursdays featuring local arts organizations. If you have any questions, you can email us at arttalks@mtsymphony.org. Thanks again for listening, and we'll be back next week.